My darling philosophers, welcome to our daily devotional reading. A special welcome to the members of our make-believe monastery. Let's close our eyes, sink into the moment. Indeed, let the moment sink into us. Feel that which is, to us at least, most real. The breath in your body. The experience of your body moving as you breathe. Preferably in your tummy, but if you're like me and slouching now, it's fine if you feel it through your shoulders, your back, your breast, and your tummy, everywhere. Feel your body move with your breath. That is real. And if you get confused, lost in too many thoughts, come back to this. Your body moving as you breathe. Be present with that which you are, here and now. Yes, this is fleeting, but everything is fleeting. And from this bodily presence, let's read Plato. Now I, Protagoras, want to ask you a little question, Socrates speaking, which if you will only answer, I shall be quite satisfied. We already know that's not going to be the case. Socrates never stops at one question. You were saying that virtue can be taught. That I will take upon your authority, and there is no one to whom I am more ready to trust. But I marvel at one thing about which I should like to have my mind set at rest. You were speaking of Zeus sending justice and reverence to men. And several times you were speaking, justice and temperance and holiness, and all these qualities were described by you as if together they made up virtue. I like this translation of reverence. The other one has it being ashamed. I don't like that. I do like this reverence. Virtue, arete. Now I want you to tell me truly whether virtue is one whole, of which justice and temperance and holiness are parts, or whether all these are only the names of one and the same thing. That is the doubt which still lingers in my mind. There is no difficulty, Socrates, in answering that the qualities of which you are speaking are the parts of virtue, which is one. And are the parts, I said, in the same sense in which mouth, nose, and eyes and ears are the parts of a face? Or are they like the parts of gold, which differ from the whole and from one another only in being larger or smaller? I should say that they are different, Socrates, in the first way, they are related to one another as the parts of the face are related to the whole face. And do men have some one part and some another part of virtue? Or if a man has one part, must he also have all the others? By no means, he said, for many a man is brave and not just, or just and not wise. You would not deny, then, that courage and wisdom are also parts of virtue? Most undoubtedly they are, he answered, and wisdom is the noblest of the parts. And they are all different from one another, I said. Yes. And has each of them a distinct function like the parts of the face? The eyes, for example, is not like the ear, and has not the same functions, and the other parts are none of them like one another, either in their function or in any other way. I want to know whether the comparison holds concerning the parts of virtue. Do they also differ from one another in themselves and in their functions? For that is clearly what the simile would imply. Yes, Socrates, you are right in supposing that they differ. Then, I said, no other part of virtue is like knowledge, or like justice, or like courage, or like temperance, or like holiness. No, he answered. Well then, I said, suppose that you and I inquire into their natures, and first you would agree with me that justice is of the nature of the thing, would you not? That is my opinion, would it not be also yours? Mine also, he said. And suppose that someone were to ask us, saying, O Protagoras and you, Socrates, what about this thing which you were calling justice? Is it just or unjust? And I were to answer, just. Would you vote with me or against me? With you, he said. Thereupon I should answer to him who asked me that justice is of the nature of the just. Would not you? Yes, he said. And suppose that he went on to say, well now, is there also such a thing as holiness? We should answer, yes, if I am not mistaken. Yes, he said. Which you would also acknowledge to be a thing. Should we not say so? He assented. And is this a sort of thing which is of the nature of the holy, or the nature of the unholy? I should be angry at his putting such a question, and would say, peace, man. Nothing can be holy if holiness is not holy. What would you say? Would you not answer in the same way? Certainly, he said. And then after this, suppose that he came and asked us, what were you saying just now? Perhaps I may not have heard you rightly, but you seemed to me to be saying that the parts of the virtue were not the same as one another. I should reply, you certainly heard that said, but not as you imagine, by me, for I only asked the question. Protagoras gave the answer. And suppose that he turned to you and said, is this true, Protagoras? And do you maintain that one part of virtue is unlike another? And is this your position? How would you answer him? I could not help acknowledging the truth of what he said, Socrates. Well then, Protagoras, we will assume this, and now supposing that he proceeds to say further, then holiness is not of the nature of justice, nor justice of the nature of holiness, but of the nature of unholiness, and holiness is of the nature of not just, and therefore of the unjust, and the unjust is the unholy. How shall we answer him? I should certainly answer him on my own behalf that justice is holy, and that holiness is just. And I would say in like manner on your behalf also, if you would allow me, that justice is either the same with holiness or very nearly the same. And above all, I would assert that justice is like holiness and holiness is like justice. And I wish that you would tell me whether I may be permitted to give him this answer on your behalf, and whether you would agree with me. Just because the mouth is not a nose doesn't mean it's an asshole. He replied, I cannot simply agree, Socrates, to the proposition that justice is holy and that holiness is just, if there appears to me to be a difference between them. But what matter? If you please, I please, and let us assume as you will, that justice is holy and that holiness is just. Pardon me, I replied. I do not want this if you wish, or if you will, sort of conclusion to be proven. But I want you and me to be proven. I mean to say that the conclusion will be best proven if there be no if. Well, he said, I admit that justice bears a resemblance to holiness, for there is always some point of view in which everything is like every other thing. White is in a certain way like black, and hard is like soft, and most extreme opposites have some qualities in common, even the parts of the face which, as we were saying before, are distinct and have different functions, are still in a certain point of view similar, and one of them is like another of them, and you may prove that they are like one another on the same principle that all things are like one another. And yet things which are like in some particular ought not to be called alike, nor things which are unlike in some particular, however slight, unlike. And do you think, I said in a tone of surprise, that justice and holiness have but a small degree of likeness? Certainly not, any more than I'd agree with that what I understand to be your view. Well, I said, as you appear to have a difficulty about this, let us take another of the examples which you mentioned instead. Do you admit the existence of folly? I do. I've proved that he exists. And is not wisdom the very opposite of folly? We have the same hair, so I don't think we're the opposites. That is true, though, Protagoras said. And when men act rightly and advantageously, they seem to you to be temperate. Yes, he said. And temperance makes them temperate. Certainly. And they who do not act rightly act foolishly, and in acting thus they are not temperate. I agree, he said. Then to act foolishly is the opposite of acting temperately. He assented. And foolish actions are done by folly, and temperate actions by temperance. That's not true. Well, I don't know how he acts. I only know how he writes and speaks. He agreed. And that is done strongly which is done by strength, and that which is weakly done by weakness, he assented. And that which is done with swiftness is done swiftly, and that which is done with slowness, slowly. He assented again. And that which is done in the same manner is done by the same, and that which is done in an opposite manner by the opposite. He agreed. Once more, I said, is there anything beautiful? Yes. To which the opposite is the ugly. There is no other. And is there anything good? There is. To which the only opposite is the evil. There is no other. And there is the acute in sound, true, to which the only opposite is the, I only know this in Afrikaans, grafis. So these are the Greek accent letter signs. Acute goes like this, and you go up in your tone when you say that, when that's written. True. And the grafis, grave, it looks like grave, but it's grafis, is like the opposite direction line. You go down. True. 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 I should get something that has two different. Acute. Grave. So you notice there that one goes up in the last syllable and the other one goes down in the last syllable. There is no other, he said, but that. Then every opposite has one opposite only and no more. He assented. Then now, I said, let us recapitulate our admissions. First of all, we admitted that everything has one opposite and not more than one. We did so. And we admitted that also that what was done in opposite ways was done by opposite. Yes. And that which was done foolishly, we further admitted, was done in the opposite way to that which was done temperately. Yes. And that which was done temperately was done by temperance, and that which was done foolishly by folly. He agreed. It's just because they don't know folly. This was written long before his birth, so don't pay any attention to this. And that which is done in opposite ways is done by opposites. Yes. And one thing is done by temperance, and quite another thing by folly. Yes. And in opposite ways, certainly. And therefore by opposites. Then folly is the opposite of temperance, clearly. I don't know him that well, I don't know. And do you remember that folly has already been acknowledged by us to be the opposite of wisdom? He assented. And we said that everything has only one opposite. Yes. Then, Protagoras, which of the two assertions shall we renounce? One says that everything has but one opposite, the other that wisdom is distinct from temperance, and that both of them are parts of virtue, and that they are not only distinct but dissimilar both in themselves and in their functions, like the parts of a face. Which of these two assertions shall we renounce? For both of them together are certainly not in harmony. They do not accord or agree, for how can they be said to agree if everything is assumed to have only one opposite, and not more than one? And yet folly, which is one, has clearly two opposites, wisdom and temperance. Is not that true, Protagoras? What else would you say? He assented, but with great reluctance. Then temperance and wisdom are the same, as before justice and holiness appear to us to be nearly the same. And now, Protagoras, I said, we must finish the inquiry and not faint. Do you think that an unjust man can be temperate in his injustice? I should be ashamed, Socrates, he said, to acknowledge this, which nevertheless may be found to assert. And shall I argue with them or with you? I replied. I would rather, he said, that you should argue with the many first, if you will. Whichever you please, if you will only answer me and say whether you are of their opinion or not. My object is to test the validity of the argument, and yet the results may be that I who ask and you who answer may both be put on trial. Thus far, our scripture of the evening. So I do reject the assumption that there's only one opposite of each thing. Wouldn't life be simple if that was true? There's a large scale between beautiful and ugly. And in the beautiful there's often ugly, and in the ugly there's often beauty. I like this analogy of the virtues being parts of the face. I think Socrates takes it in a bit of a ridiculous direction. But it reminds me of that idea that we are all part of the body, the church is like a body, and we all have our parts to play. And all the virtues make one. They are connected. They are part of one face, if you will. But they all have their different roles and their different qualities, and one can work very well and the other not on the same face. So that would make sense as well. You don't have to be of perfect hearing to have perfect sight, or smell perfectly in order to speak well. So actually the idea of the virtues being like parts of the face is quite appealing, and then all being one face together. I like that. Parts of the whole, or actually the same thing. Suppose we can ask that about all things. Parts of the whole, or actually the same thing. Does it make a difference? I suppose it does. Well, I suppose we're both. It's both. It's part of the whole and parts of the whole, and also basically actually the same thing. Depends on which level you look at it. Don't have anything else written except in the argument both are put on trial, which is only right if truth is the only objective. What I take from this tonight, strange accent. I got up really early. I will speak about it. So I'm recording early because I want to go to bed early. I'm tired. And I didn't sleep well because I was in preparation mode. So what I take from this idea that in the argument, in the search for truth, we both, all of us, all participants are put on trial. And the idea, I would think, and I'm actually feeling relief at this thought. The idea is not to prove yourself, but to test yourself. To put forward what you think could be right, and have it looked at, examined, questioned, rejected, if it must be rejected. Which is not always easy, but it is necessary. And the freedom I feel, I think I feel with this thought is the freedom to make mistakes, to say things that maybe you shouldn't say, do things that maybe you shouldn't do. As long as you play the game aiming at virtue, aiming at wisdom, aiming at what is true, what is real. How do I become real? I completely forgot about that. That used to be something we spoke about a lot in the coven. Rebecca and Holly and Sarah and Isa and I. That should maybe be a very fundamental part of everyone's philosophy. When you start to build your worldview, maybe that should be the foundation. What if I hold these views? Which views would make me most real? Closer to the truth, closest to the truth. And the truth being what is real. Not correlation, something deeper than that. I need to look into different theories of truth again. There's so much that I need to look into. I know so little. In a way that's liberating, I suppose. I've got so much to learn and so little to lose because I don't have a lot. Wisdom, Protagoras says, is the noblest of all virtues. I like that, and I'm quite sure Socrates would agree with him on that. Wisdom. I may have been acting foolishly today and last night. I did something that I said I wouldn't do. But I also said that he's my favorite. He's one of my favorites. And that I would fight for him. And all is fair in love and war, right? If I can eat flesh, I can intercede for someone without their explicit consent. At worst, nothing is real and he will not even be affected by it. So, at worst, best, worse. I don't know. At worst, best, or best, worst, the other one. He will get what he said he wants. Whether he really wants it or not, I don't know. I don't know him at all. I do take him as someone who's sincere, but you never know. Not because I don't have faith in him, but because I don't have faith in myself. I make mistakes sometimes. But I did do a ritual this morning for my favorite. I went to bed prepared. And then I arose before dawn, before sunrise. At 5, and it was beautiful. It was quite beautiful. When I reached the place where I was going to make I happened to have had blood available because I'm on day 4. And I haven't made my offering again yet this month. And when I reached the place at the river where I was going to make the offering, there were roses drifting in the water. Later I went back to take a photo of the roses because I thought that's just so perfect. But by then they have drifted away, which means that they were just in the right spot at just the right time. The music that came up was perfect. I had a particular song in mind, but I didn't want to sing the lyrics, and quite by accident I'm beginning to think YouTube might be more involved in all of this than YouTube gave me an instrumental version without me searching for it. And because I wasn't sure. But then when I opened YouTube this morning to see if there's maybe any reason why I shouldn't do it, there was a video recommended by someone I've never watched before. A video posted 5 months ago. I can't believe that he doesn't see it himself. I worked with this book. 3 passages. I randomly read 3 passages, and I will read them to you now. The contemporary theologian Jürgen Moltmann suggests that the Orthodox view of resurrection also expressed in symbolic language, and then this is the part which I had marked, the conviction that human life is inseparable from bodily experience. Even if a man comes back to life from the dead, he must come back physically. There are many ways to come back from the dead, though. Oh, the second one I didn't bother to put a placeholder in because I thought I'll remember which page. I just forgot that I thought I was going to remember which page, but I do remember which page. It's page 77, easy to remember. Even more remarkable is a Gnostic poem called The Thunder Perfect Mind. This text contains a revelation spoken by a feminine power. I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the mother and the daughter. I am she whose wedding is great, and I have not taken a husband. I am knowledge and ignorance. I am shameless. I am ashamed. I am strength, and I am fear. I am foolish, and I am wise. And then I think the important part. I am godless, and I am one whose God is great. And then the last one, there's different places marked with me. This one. Both Gnosticism and psychotherapy value above all knowledge, the self-knowledge, which is insight. And then when I came back, I read from this. Such devotion is good and inspired by grace, but it is much inferior to the exercise of the understanding when grace moves the soul to contemplate God in man. Oh, and then there was something I saw that I have on my phone. One last thing. God is not seeking a display of my Christ-likeness, but a manifestation of his Christ. Watchman Nee or something like that. So be it. I wrote to Rebecca about the ritual. I still haven't mailed the letter. I still have it here with me. I want to have my appointment first and then write to her about that as well before I send the letter. I thought maybe it's weird if I read a part from the letter, but my first letters to her, we wrote when she was doing a ritual. She'd ask us to write her letters. And I posted them online. So it's not so bad for me to read a sentence, I believe. I'll start with the sentence just before that. Let's see what the goddess does. And then the concluding sentence. It is so strange interacting with the gods, double the S, because that's how she refers to them, keeps them not masculine nor feminine. It's so strange interacting with the gods without believing that they are. I suppose if Alex now really has a religious experience, I will have to believe myself. I don't know what I'm hoping for, quite honestly. But it is done. It is out of my hands now. I don't know, though. I don't know if it's something I need to repeat, which I'm allowed to repeat, or if it's a one-time thing. But it is done. Whether wise or in folly, I don't know. Please do not judge my goddess by who and what I am. Sophia herself will guide your way.